2 to 5% spread over 50 years is what it was. But you know, that's not a small number. You could say it's a small percentage, but it's not a small number when you got like 50 years worth of clergy sexual misconduct cases. So it was just plain misleading, to say the very least, for Jim Key to say that only a small number of Unitarian Universalist ministers were guilty of clergy sexual misconduct, when in fact, according to reliable sources, a minimum, absolute minimum of 400 Unitarian Universalist congregations had been affected by clergy sexual misconduct of one kind or another. And some of those congregations, you know, were affected by several different ministers over, you know, the 50 years plus existence of the Unitarian Universalist Association. You know, so some of those congregations would have had, you know, 2 ministers guilty of clergy sexual misconduct over a span of 50 years. Some might have had 3, some might have had more. But certainly, you know, a good number of those churches had, you know, 2 or more instances of clergy sexual misconduct by 2 different ministers over time. So that was bullshit. But the worst bald-faced lie that UUA moderator Jim Key inserted into his worthless apology to victims of clergy sexual misconduct are the following words: "There were no instances of abuse of children or elders in my investigations." That's an exact quote from UUA moderator Jim Key's utterly worthless apology to victims of clergy sexual misconduct, and it is a bald-faced lie. Jim Key knew very well that a certain number of Unitarian Universalist ministers had been charged, tried, and convicted of such despicable crimes as pedophilia or rape. You know, this is not just cases of pedophilia and rape that you know, were never reported to the authorities, and those exist too. You know, we're talking of cases where ministers were arrested, charged, went to trial, were found guilty, and went to jail for some number of years for either pedophilia or rape, or possibly a combination of both. You know, I personally told Jim Key prior to his apology about some cases. And he could have verified, you know, what I told him. He could have also asked more questions, and I could have told him more. Jim Key cut off communication with me after our first telephone conversation. I had an hour and a half or so long telephone conversation with Jim Key in September 2013. I recorded my side of it on video and posted it to YouTube. So if you go to YouTube and look for Rob and Edgar Conversation with Jim Key, you will find the series of videos that record that conversation. In it, I told Jim Key about the fact that Reverend Mac Wallace Mitchell had been charged, tried, and convicted of raping teenage Tibetan refugees. I told Jim Key that other Unitarian Universalist ministers had been convicted of pedophilia, sexual abuse of children, and sent to jail. I didn't go into a whole lot of detail because this was an initial conversation. But, you know, there was supposed to be further conversations. There was supposed to be follow-up. Well, that never happened. So essentially, you know, I didn't go into details of various other cases I'm aware of with Jim Key. But he was told very clearly that, you know, a certain number of ministers were charged, tried, and convicted of either pedophilia or rape, and went to jail. So he knew this from me if no one else. And this is the thing, you know, I find it very hard to believe that in Jim Key's investigations of clergy sexual misconduct, that no one else told him about sexual abuse of children. You know, it's not impossible. I suppose that the Unitarian Universalist ministers who know very well that a certain number of children have been sexually abused by Unitarian Universalist clergy, for whatever reason, did not tell this to Jim Key, withheld that information. But Jim Key, and I find it very hard to believe. I don't believe that actually happened. I believe he almost certainly was told. In fact, I will try to verify what he was told by some people, just to be sure, or to find out that they didn't tell him. But the fact is even if not one other person told Jim Key about sexual abuse of children by Unitarian Universalist ministers, I did. Not only in that telephone conversation, but in a number of emails that I sent to him and also to the UA Board of Trustees, both before that phone conversation and following it. So Jim Key was in a position to know about the Reverend Mac Wallace Mitchell case, where teenage Tibetan refugees were repeatedly raped by Reverend Mac Wallace Mitchell over a period measured in years. And he was also in a position to know about some other cases of specifically pedophilia, sexual abuse of very young children by Unitarian Universalist ministers. Several different cases where ministers were charged, tried and convicted, went to jail. But, you know, he just stood up and brazenly lied to Unitarian Universalists and, by extension, the general public in saying there were no incidents of abuse of children or elders in my investigations. This is outrageous, and yet, to the best of my knowledge, not one single Unitarian Universalist minister has called Jim Key to account for his brazen, bald-faced lies that he inserted into his utterly worthless official apology, in quotation marks, to victims of clergy sexual misconduct. So we're going to be wrapping this up soon. We've got some people still coming in to the church here, but we're pretty well done. Oh yeah, it's 2 people coming in. But yeah, the service started a little while ago. Got some stragglers here. But I think I'm going to take a break and have a coffee or maybe even breakfast. I already had some breakfast. Might have a second breakfast or brunch or lunch. We've had a pretty darn good protest today. I'll try to get the video up on YouTube soon. Probably later today, but maybe not. Such a nice day that I don't particularly want to be stuck inside uploading video when I have other things I can be doing, so I might let that go until Monday or later in the week. But as a rule, I try to get the video up the same day these days, since it's within possibility to do so. But yeah, it's been, the main thing was a very long conversation I had with a younger member. Okay, we're coming up to 26 minutes here, actually 27 minutes. So yeah, we're just about done. Like that's 3 half-hour segments of video. So once this runs out, we're done. In fact, I think, yeah, considering my signs are getting blown down, we're gonna start packing things away. But the main highlight of today's protest was a long conversation with a younger member of the Unitarian Church of Montreal, a young father, I believe, who has a few children, who, you know, has, you know, brings his children to the Unitarian Church of Montreal for Sunday school and attends services himself. I don't know if he's a bona fide card-carrying member of the Unitarian Church of Montreal, but he was one of the very, very few, you know, people who attend the church who's ever engaged in a significant lengthy conversation about the issues, and what's good is he understood everything. He basically was in agreement with pretty much everything I had to say. And you know, he understood clearly that there's some serious issues that need to be resolved. So we'll see what comes of that, if anything. But I think at minimum he's, you know, and I told him, I said, look, you know, like, do your fact checking, do some research. You can ask me questions. You know, I told him how he could find my email address. And encouraged dialogue. So I think if nothing else, this guy will become aware of not only the issues involved, you know, which he's already now aware of to considerable detail, but will also become aware of just how stunningly negligent and effectively complicit not only the leadership of the Unitarian Church of Montreal has been, but pretty much the whole membership of the Unitarian Church of Montreal has been for quite a few years. So I see we're coming up to 29 minutes. So yeah, we're done here for the day. We're going to go get something to eat, go upload video. Just letting some people pass here. So yeah, this is it. This is the end of the protest of February 19th, 2017, which happens to be a special day in my history. We won't go into the details, but today is a significant day for me, and I kind of hope somebody is happy to see that I'm doing what I'm doing. And on that note, we're gonna walk away.